Following is a video podcast with Suhas Motwani of the Product Folks. In this conversation, we spoke about the importance of product management roles, how its evolution is taking place in the Indian startup ecosystem, and how the future of product management role is going to grow, as well as why it is actually becoming one of the most aspiring and prominent roles for young professionals to actually go into, and the importance of cohort based learning. Apart from it, we also spoke about why the educational model is sooner or later going to shift from an offline model of learning to an online model of learning, as well as the principles of game design that are now being implemented into product management roles. I hope you were able to extract as much value that as I was when I spoke with Suhas regarding this conversation, and you will be able to learn something to take away from this conversation. Now, let's start. All right, we are good to go. And first of all, I
Yes.
just wanted to thank you for actually taking out the time and joining me on this podcast. So, yeah,
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
so this is my first video podcast that I'm doing right now. So, prior to that, I've been only Spotify audio podcasts with my um, host that I used to have. So, thank you for being on here. And, I specifically invited you here because what you are doing is pretty interesting. So I wanted you to share what the product folks is and how it is
Sure
actually
thing.
changing the startup ecosystem altogether. So could
Sure
you
thing.
share?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think with product folks as a community, it's been about 15 months now. Started off with one small event last year in Bangalore. And over time, I think we've grown to over seven, I think nine offline chapters. Pre-COVID, we've done about 100 events in total, offline plus online. I think the entire experience on the event side has been great, and the community has grown. I think 15K plus members right now. But beyond the community, I think a bunch of initiatives that came out to help people grow together in the speed in the product space. Start off predominantly helping people transition. So there was Learn PM with .me, which is a free set of resources to help people upskill. We noticed a lot of aspiring guys coming in. So this was again something that the community requested, and we just put together some resources that we thought might be the best, which we came across at that point of time. Working on like a version 2 now. Then we launched something called Insurger.club, which is an early
Yes.
stage APM program. So that was again, so if you see the first need from the community was, hey, we want to transition. Where do we learn? What do we do? So, Learn PM with .me came out of that. Once people started reading that, common feedback that we got was, hey, okay, this is a great place to start learning to know more about product management, but I'm still not able to break in. So, what can we do there? And for that, we started working on. So in the US, there are a lot of these APM programs. That concept isn't so popular in India yet. So there is a company called Toronto APM in Canada. What we were trying to do is try getting a similar model in India, and we did one beta cohort, which was a great learning experience. We plan to do one or two cohorts a year, keep it limited to that, and try making an impact, at least on the early stage. So that was one that we're pretty excited about. Looking forward to the next cohort. I think it's a little delayed given the situation right now,
Yes.
but that's exciting. Over the last 6 months, I think it's grown phenomenally. I think in COVID, we were able to invite a lot of speakers online. We've hosted the founder of Superhuman, Rahul. We've
Yes.
hosted senior leaders from Stripe, from Airbnb. So I think as a community, a lot more people stepping up from that one small event last year to 20 folks right now running different initiatives. We launched something called very recently. We launched something called a 100 PMs initiative, which is essentially celebrating a lot of product leaders, product managers, product folks from the ecosystem who are giving back. Help people connect with them. So that is something that I'm excited about. Very recently, I think just yesterday or today, I think yesterday or today, we launched something called the product teardowns, which is essentially trying documenting Indian case studies from Indian startups and how they are adapting to the current situation, how they've been growing, how they've probably a UX breakdown, but trying to help people put together a portfolio there. So yeah, interesting initiatives. I think as a community, it's grown beyond what I thought it might, and I'm just excited about what's coming.
I'm gonna have to read up on the latest initiative that you actually mentioned here, but I did actually get a chance to look at learnpm.me and insurjo.club, and right now with what we are seeing with our education sector, specifically with edtech startups, they are most of the time focusing on either reskilling with startups such as Upgrad, and either these edtech startups are focusing on 10 plus 2 education, where Byju's, Sun Academy come into the place and they train
Right.
you for colleges, or you still are working to actually get placement with these. And cohort
Yeah.
based learning initiatives is something that is, I believe, is a sector that's going to grow a lot more in India. I have been in conversation with um, head of an academy, ex-head of an academy, Abhinav Chikara, who runs the 10k.com, 10k Designers Initiative, where he actually teaches them UI design on with by creating a small cohort of 30 people, where he actually takes them through real life assignments and training them. And a couple of other edtech startups are actually taking this initiative forward. So, what is it about this cohort based learning that is going to overtake our current education system? What do you think would be the growth path here?
Got it. Got it. Great question, I think, and I'll try giving you my views on what I think are the pros versus the other way of the education that is going on, online education that is going on, and a couple of challenges as well.
Sure.
So I think what you mentioned on the previous thing, companies like Byju's, Unacademy, they are, yes, they're definitely, but I think they're also focused mainly on the test prep market. If you see
Yes,
Unacademy, they start off with IAS, I think, as one of the major segments. Baiju's K-12 market. That is a great segment, and they've done a great job building out a product that reaches out to masses. Uh,
yes,
what I am excited about on the cohort-based learning is outcomes. I think it's very, very outcome driven. Think of it as an MBA college. When you go to an MBA college, what are top three things that you're looking for? One is definitely great set of peers that you're getting to learn from. That is
yes,
the network. Another one is the content and the professors who you're learning from. That is definitely something that is validated.
that's true.
Um, Accelerated learning. In that 1 year, you pick up things from very different places. And top MBA colleges also something that is super important is also the brand value that they bring. I put that as number three as well because
That's
that
line number.
ISB exactly, or that IMA tag or B tag, that is going to be there with you for the next 10 years, next 20 years, or the rest of your life. That is I mean, that I would put these as the top three. And if you think that is a cohort based model, that is not online right now. But if a lot of these online startups can bring that model online, it's not going to be an easy replication. It's going to see brand takes time to build.
That's true.
Quality of education is improving. That is definitely available online right now, and I think that is the first step that is changing. And cohort brings the network part of it. Learning
Okay.
with a very curated set of. So that is how I'd like to put this analogy. Like compare it instead of comparing it to a Byju's or the others there. Try comparing it to traditional cohort-based model, and try seeing what are the best things that they are doing and whether this can be replicated online. What are the challenges in replicating this online? Um, See, something like Byju's is definitely scalable. So I think scalability is definitely one challenge because in cohort-based models, it's operationally heavy. So if you
Yes,
need to scale it, you need to be running either a number of these cohorts together, or increase frequency or increase cohort size, which might lead to dilution. So how do you scale while maintaining quality? I feel that is the number one challenge.
yes,
Rest, I think people are definitely figuring out. I think content is, I think delivering this content online is great. Cohort-based model helps in a lot more completion, helps in a lot more outcome-driven education. So I think that's why it's definitely exciting. It comes at a premium because you are targeting outcome. So I'm definitely excited about that. I'm definitely excited about the cohort-based learning. Uh, Scalability is something that hasn't been validated yet, and I think that over time is something that we all will figure.
But so let's even talk about these offline cohorts where you just mentioned MBA institutes such as in India, IMA, IMB, these tags are there. And let's talk about Ivy League colleges if we are talking about Harvard or maybe Stanford. These are also
Yeah,
training individuals in mass cohorts. So they are not cohort of 100 students or 200 students. These involve thousands of students. So do you feel
yeah.
that there is a dilution of quality takes place in these offline cohorts?
Uh, so I think these are brands that have developed over a long period of time, right? So
That's true.
initially, started smaller, they would have started with the exclusivity. And I think the reason they are so sought after today is also the fact that, there are thousands who apply and they select, the top 1%, top 5%. So till a lot of these online cohort based models reach that state, and hey, it becomes that sought after. So for that, I mean, a bunch of things need to work out. When you start small, the success stories will translate into a flywheel. Then these success stories, once they go to companies, people are once you go to companies and they do a great job, that's when they build out a brand for the institute they've come out from. So it can be an
Yes.
online education startup. So I just think it's a matter of a little more time till that brand plays out and till the students who graduate from this actually go make an impact. So I think it won't be exactly right to compare it at the stage they are at, given
That's
that
true.
these people. So brand building takes time, so that's exactly what I'm saying. I think it's fine to fine not to compare the size of cohorts right now. What we need to consistently try working on is that, hey, even if I have a smaller cohort size, how do I get them the opportunities that is available to say guys at Stanford? How do I solve that problem? It's going to take a little more time, but if I
That's
can
true.
do that, then definitely the flywheel improves. So I say tomorrow someone from our cohort gets placed as a Google at Google, and he does a great job there. It opens up doors for us so that from the people from the next batch get an opportunity to go there. So I think that is something that will take time to open up those doors. And once the first set is successful in doing that, then I think it's a lot more easy. It's a repeatable thing.
But okay, so let me actually like try to take it in a more layman's approach here. So
Yeah,
basically, if a student from these cohorts working with the product folks and they get a good reputation, they get a good placement in either the FANG companies or maybe a very hyper growing startup, and it would
yeah,
create a recursive feedback loop for more people to come in and
exactly.
join in, and it would allow them to actually build that credibility. That's very true. But
Right.
in these recent days, I am under a very strong impression that a lot of these offline learning institutes, they are not really grounded in that reality itself, because what I have been seeing over these couple of months with the situation that we are facing right now, online education is taking up much far much faster, and it's accelerating at an exponential pace with respect to the our current offline education systems, and they are not easily able to replicate. So a lot of high cost of entering these MBA colleges or Ivy League institutes, people are going into this educational debt that they go to. Whereas if they actually rather spend times on online cohorts, which although have not yet built that credibility, would they be actually a better mode of learning in the near future? Is that something that we can see?
I think this is a question that depends from person to person as well, right? What is the outcome that you're looking to achieve? See, if the outcome is just the learning bit, I can do that on YouTube as well, right? Do I need to go to
That's
an
true.
online institute to learn that, right? There are people who write great blogs. There are people who write, these resources. There are tons of people who put out these resources. So if someone is really that prepared and wants to go that route, I think it is also what outcome you're looking for versus the amount of time that you have versus the risk you're willing to take. Compare it to a
Yeah.
startup versus working at one of the bigger companies, right? The risk reward ratio is very high. So that is, I think, that is one thing that I would like to say. I don't think it's a general blanket statement. um, personally, maybe yes, I do agree that um, it might not be necessary to go to these Ivy League colleges, given that now at the current state, most of it the learning is online. It's a
Yeah.
either people are differing, or they're starting off online, and when things get better they will go offline. So maybe in the current state, paying the same amount of money for that experience might not be worth it. But I think one thing we can't discount is the fact that when you are getting to, yes, definitely the cost involved. So that is on a personal basis, but getting an education from these top institutes also opens up some doors for me. See, that is something that we can't discount at the current stage. There are different ways to do that. Maybe today the internet is a great leverage point, is a great leveler today,
Yes.
that you can do a lot more things that can get you to a similar place. It might take longer. It has a lot more factors involved. It needs you to be a self-starter. That is given. It needs
Yes.
you to but yes, I think maybe these opportunities were not present, say, a decade ago. So if you are willing to put in that effort, yes, the internet has opened up a lot more doors. But I think you can't discount the fact that ठीक है, for the amount that you're paying there, you are definitely getting some opportunities, even if not a lot, some opportunities which are maybe not open to a lot more people who do not have access to either the degree or the brand name of the institute. So I think we're still not there where we can say that, hey, okay, like an MBA college from these top institutes is not really necessary. If that was the case, we would have easily seen that out there. uh,
Yes.
ROI is subjective, right? I think it depends on where you're coming from, what your background is, risk thing that I mentioned earlier. What part do you really want to take? Where do you want to end up? I think a bunch of these factors, something to consider. Uh, People do put out a blanket statement, but I think in my case, this is how I've learned over time. I think maybe I was in one of the two buckets earlier, but having
Okay.
these conversations, I think this is my current understanding. This is where I stand currently.
That's true. That makes a lot of sense. So, one of these things, do you think that in the next decades or in the next 5 years, we would
Mm,
see a surge in online cohort-based learning and not just for product? It would like shift to a different set of roles because let's talk about app development. 20 years ago, this wasn't a role that was present. Right now, because we have such strong processing devices in our phones, we are able to see a growth in these employment avenues that a lot of offline colleges are not able to help with. A and B, there are a lot of boot camps opening up recently which do not cost you as much, so there's a very good return on investment that we can see that allows for people to get a lot of content, get a lot of feedback from the market itself from these boot camps. And now you become capable enough that you are going to be able to build a niche for yourself or be able to build a living for yourself. What do you think in the next five
absolutely.
years or decades?
Absolutely. I think 5 years is a great timeline. What I envision today, yes, there are tons of boot camps. What I'd like to see them evolve to is study clubs, where today your boot camp is giving you this content. You study with a bunch of interesting people, a curated set of people who are having a similar trajectory. Maybe, they want to become aspiring product guys, aspiring tech guys, aspiring growth guys. So that involves the network that I was talking to you about on the MBA side.
Yes.
Um, I think 5 years from now, definitely, I agree with you. I'm psyched about this space for sure. Online education is changing. In 5 years, I think we should be able to get in a lot more personalization. Today, it is about 15, 20, 30, 100 people joining at point A, going to point B. Uh, Maybe 5 years from now, we'd be able to pick in skills. I think some startups are already working on this,
Yes.
but say you are proficient in a couple of skills already, you have a bunch of skills that you want to learn. How do
Yes.
we make that more holistic and help you get to where you want? So I think that is something that will be interesting. Maybe personalize the learning bit,
Yes.
give you the give you a curated set of interesting people that you can learn. And what I'm excited about is how we're moving to more of an outcome driven. Think
Yes.
about it. Outcome doesn't really have to mean like a maybe a job. It can also just mean that, hey, um, you know, I come in with an idea. Just give you an example, but hey, I come in with an idea. I have a set of mentors, I have a set of coaches who help me, like, okay, hey, you want to do this, why don't you do this? Or I get to meet exciting people. So I think build on the go, build and learn on the go. I think instead of today, learning, trying to apply, I think learn, build, iterate. And I think that might be one exciting thing that I see some startups working on. Personalized learning and another one. Online education is definitely picking up. I think this is a season. Next 5 years, we'll definitely see a lot of innovation.
Yeah, that's really interesting about what you said, that a lot of people would actually come in and not just for jobs, but they would actually go and put in, like, validate their ideas, test them out there on the market. So I believe that community plays a very strong part of it. And product folks initially started as a community driven, I should say, a venture, I would say. And
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
what aspect does community played in the growth of product folks here? If you can
I
tell us
think
a little
till,
more.
till absolutely, absolutely. I think till date we are entirely volunteer driven. We are a community driven initiative. Um, Insurjo came out of Product Folks as an idea which we got from the community. So our approach has been different. Our approach has been like building out the community first, understand their needs, understand how we can help them get to what they want. Because we started off really small, like when we were 50, 100, 200, 300, each of us, like we knew each other that way. So it was easier to talk to them. And it also helped us break down a lot of our own biases. Sometimes, when you think only like, hey, this is something that might be useful for him, it's always easier to just go talk to a bunch of users there. So that user research bit got a lot more easier. Validating our product once we had it out there became a lot more easier, given that, you have a bunch of early guys who are ready to use it because you're solving for them.
Yes.
Um, so that's where I think maybe the community approach really helped us. Um, Product folks, I think, will always remain community driven, will always remain volunteer driven. So I think that is the best part about it. There is no one person. Maybe, it was just one small event that it started with where I was involved. But today, the best part is a lot more people stepping up, a lot more initiatives where maybe I just have a very small role, other people leading it, which would have been impossible for me to do alone. So that is a given. So I think that's something that we're still very young, just about a year old. So there is definitely a lot of learning for us in this as well. How we go forward from here, how we mold, how we bring a lot of these ideas to life. I think that is something that we're learning on the go. If you ask me personally, in my own belief, that I think from the first version that we had a year ago to today what we are, our first version of the website that we have to be, I mean, a lot of improvements still needed, but if I can see the transition, I probably should have had like a before and after screen here for you. But yeah, I think that is something that is a great a great motivation for us, that hey, just keep doing things will get better, just keep moving ahead. Do things that are useful for a lot of people. So there are people already using it when you're going to community.
Okay. Yeah, I highly agree with you that community driven um, missions or community driven ventures are going to be actually be the way forward, because internet is providing us with the leverage to market who we are, what we are doing right now on an idea, and that's very interesting. So let's take a deep dive towards what product folks can actually help you with. So let's take
Sure.
a student who is 22 years old,
Yeah.
just got out of engineering college, is not readily ready to actually, get out into the job market, because we are seeing some engineering colleges, they are not able to provide the value that you need for the current job market that we have. So
Yeah.
if they go on learnpmwithme.com and they
Yeah.
get to learn more about the productfolks.com. So how
Yeah.
would product folks shape this person, considering that they are highly motivated internally, intrinsically, and they are willing to take on risk? So how would product folks help this person who's 22 years old right now, is looking for a job in the market and would like to become a product manager in the coming 2 3 years?
Awesome, awesome. Glad you mentioned 2 3 years and not in the next 2 3 months or next 2 3 weeks, because that's where
Yes,
the challenge lies. So two three
that's
years
true.
is a great timeline because I think there are a bunch of so let me start. So by saying like with Learn PM with me, the idea there is a primer or a roadmap to help you understand what product management is all about. Different
Okay.
things that different skills that are required, different the like what exactly is product management. If I want to become a product manager, what all can I, upskill from online? Where do I learn? What are the skills that are needed? How does the day in the life of a PM look like?
Yes.
We read about the T-shaped skills, hey, growth is something that I need to be good at, design is something I need to be good at, data is something that I need to be good at, tech can be some. So different of these verticals, where each of these verticals we've covered the surface, just the surface. So you
Okay.
get a prime. How I suggest after that is see, PM is a sought after job today.
Yes.
Given that a couple of opportunities in the market, there are a lot more people who want to break in. These can be freshers, these can be people who work a little bit. You want to transition internally. The people who probably do a degree, people who do boot camps to enter. So there are a lot of people who want to enter.
Yes.
So when the demand is high, you need to stand out. You need to do something that is different. Or
Yes.
how does 80% of the hiring today happen? It either happens through MBA college or internal transition or
Yes.
some kind of a strong refer. 80%, 90% hiring of PMs at least happens that way.
Okay.
So understand that. So understand, say you want to break into, you have a set of preferred companies as a fresher, 5, 10, 15 companies where you think, you're interested in. I'd say
Yes.
if you don't have that list, start with that list.
Okay.
So at least, things become a little more easier. Uh, if you're applying directly on LinkedIn with that easy apply, it's not going to work out. Given I just shared, there'll be multiple people who are doing that. So how do you stand up?
You
So
won't be able
after
to
that,
see through the noise, right?
exactly.
Yes.
So start with that list. Um, then easiest way is see product managers in those companies. Go to their LinkedIn profile. Have a look at how they've come into that company. If you see that hey, the company X, there are say 5 product managers, 10 product managers who have checked their profile. All of them have MBA degrees. Give you
Yes.
an example.
Okay.
That should be able to tell you that hey, as a fresher, do you think I have a good chance to get into this company? Simple.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are companies that way. Then there will be a lot more companies where you will see that okay, there's a mix. So there it gives you a chance that okay, fine. Even if I don't want to go the MBA route, so there in the previous case you need to decide. कि ठीक है, मेरे को, if I want to get into this company, then maybe this is the route. If not, what can I do different? But the chances or the odds or the difficulty level definitely goes up if in case you want to do the traditional. In another company, you say 50, some people with this background, some people with that background. Uh, then do one thing. The people, say there are these early stage PMs who are broken into that company. You need to also see the background they're coming from, the number of years of experience, because someone with 8, 10 years of experience, and if you are a fresher, that is not going to match. So
True.
people who have just in the last 2, 3 years. So see that as so just break that down into that cohort. Now, like we mentioned, there's a 50-50. So in that 50-50, you see the early stage guys who are broken. If you see that, they're from a similar background as you, say, you are uh, broken into, or say, you work 2 years as a developer and you see that even that guy is gone from the developer to PM. So then you have some context to reach out, similar background. Just see that, if you've been able to make that transition, that becomes one of your stronger preferences in the shortlist.
Yes.
So that is the still groundwork that you need to do. I mentioned about the upskilling bit, so I think that is a non-negotiable thing. I think different ways to do that, but you need to pick up the skill. 5 years back, maybe there wasn't so much available online, so maybe you needed to go out and ask PMs, talk to them, understand how they roll it. But today, I think there's enough. Even before you make that first task, put half an hour, put 1 hour to just do a simple Google search. I mean, you don't even need that much time, but a simple Google search, front page of Google will give you a bunch of articles. I mean, like, you can go to Core Answers, you can go to a bunch of these blogs. A lot of these guys on Twitter who write about it. I could share a list of guys who I think, I always share like a bunch of guys who I
Okay.
share that with you in case you want to share it with the others. Um, just all you need to do is just see what they're talking about. They've already put out a lot of these resources out. Before you make the first ask to someone in that company, research a little bit. I think that is again a no. You learn from that experience and research a little bit. Once once that is done, no, your research part is done, your learning is done on the job. Now, if you are early into the career, one thing that I think is important is that you reach out with a specific ask that, hey, this is something that I've been doing.
Okay.
Um, I noticed that, this is your background. I think that this is a match for me as well, given that, I have a similar background. Could you please help me with A, B, C? That is the best. And 95% of product managers out there, or anyone for that, I'm talking about product, but any of the fields, if you go this approach, 95% chance I can tell you they will respond to you. People are ready to help you, but most people who are ready to switch one of these, it's pretty much impossible for them to reach out to everyone and help them in a meaningful way. So if you're able to do this, I think that art of cold emailing or emailing or reaching out with a certain context will improve everyone's life. First of all, you'll get much better answers. So I just think this is a very simple framework. It's been written out there many times. People have shared this. I'm just taking the opportunity to probably bring it back on top. So this is something that has helped me, and I'm hoping that a lot more people follow. It's going to help. It's definitely going to help you. If after that also, if it doesn't help me, please reach out to me. I'm ready to sit with you and help you out. But yeah, I think this groundwork is something that a lot of people miss out on.
Yeah, thanks for providing me the framework of how a fresher can actually get a chance to break in with these product based roles. So you mentioned something that you said product manager role is something becoming more of a sought after role in the tech startups scene. So why is that? Why recently only that product manager role is becoming so much sought after? What is motivating people to actually go after this role? If you can share something about it.
To be honest, I don't know the why behind this. I'll be absolutely honest with you. It could be a trend. I think in the valley, this is one role that is definitely picking up popularity. So it flows to different parts of different geographies. That could be one reason. Another reason could also be that from the outside, maybe it looks like a product manager's job is to you know be the. A lot of people have written about it being the CEO of a product, or you think
Yeah.
maybe the manager tag in itself, the manager tag can be misleading. For people who think that hey, coding is not my thing, or designing it, or that I'm not really good at this, but I think I can manage people. So that could be one reason that a lot more people get into it. um, one other thing is also a lot more people talking about it today. I think a lot of people share about. um, we're all excited about it, right? Like if you think about it, uh, apps, everyone I mean most people listening to this will be using a smartphone. On your
That's true.
smartphone, you have every app out there in front of you has someone who's managing that as a product, as a feature. So that connect helps people who are interested in the tech ecosystem, who are excited about these things. Um, it's a great opportunity to, I mean, at least once this is how I'm looking at it. I think it's a great opportunity where you feel that this is something I could do as well, and something that is exciting. I think a lot of people who are excited about tech are excited about driving this as an opportunity where you do get an opportunity to work across. You're not limited to one particular function. So a lot of generalists try moving into this role. A lot of people who enjoy um, doing multiple things. I think for them, I think they are excited about this. I'm not 100% sure. I think this is just again how my views or how I've seen this ecosystem do.
Okay, so I'll just mention two things here. So last night only, I was doing a little bit of reading, and I think it might be might have started with Apple and Steve Jobs, and because prior to that, products did not have that design aesthetic to them. So
Hmm.
it was Jobs' session with aesthetic and making the customer feel good about using the product that might have sparked the ignite towards this role. And second thing that you mentioned, that a lot of generalists are moving to this space. So, and product management is basically a culmination of design, understanding the ecosystem of the product that's being used, understanding sales, and all these different aspects of different fields that are considered here. I think that might be an important aspect as to why product management is becoming so sort of the field. Would you say that I might be on the right path here?
Yeah, no, great, interesting points. No, for sure, I think that's true. Just on that last bit, I like to say that I think speaking to a lot of senior PMs, I think this is very, very different at a very, like different stages of the company.
Okay.
The role of a product manager today is very different across different functions, geographies, and the stages of the company. So
Okay.
but you're absolutely right. But I think that might be limited to one particular set of companies.
Okay.
Um, I just like to highlight that the reason I'm highlighting that is people who are looking to break into PM might have this view, but then once I start working as a PM, sometimes it's very, very different. And a lot of people realize this after breaking into PM, and they might not enjoy it because maybe that is not their view of PM, but
Okay.
the job that they're doing is also a product management function, but it's very, very different. So that's just something that I like to highlight. I think a lot of books, a lot of people talk about it in this fashion. Like I also mentioned the generalist, but a caveat there is it is specific, to a certain like product management in a certain set of companies will be very, very different from product management. And it can be geography specific differentiations. It can be a B2B, B2C consumer facing
That's
enterprise.
true.
Different stages of a company. A product management role at an early stage PM. Early stage venture will be very different from a late stage MNC. So just wanted to highlight that because what we spoke about will be one set of product managers. There are different kinds, and within product management, I think today there are growth PMs, technical PMs. What you mentioned might be design focused, UX focused PM. So I think that differentiation has definitely come into the market.
So, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So basically, PM would be a large set of different aspects of roles that can be performed here, and what we just spoke on here might be a smaller subset of people that actually companies
Absolutely,
that look at it, right? Okay.
absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. So one of the things that we are seeing, and this is again like related to the similar questions, as this role is becoming much more sought after. What is the scope of this role in the future? Because as we see, a lot of demand is right now in the industry, but as the supply matches us with this demand, what would this role actually evolve into something else, or will it become a, how should I say it? Will it become a commoditized role?
Um, I don't know. Again, like to be honest, I don't know. What I can see happening is we're seeing a lot more specialized product roles coming out. So, see, if you ask me that, maybe a counter question would be: do you see the number of apps in the market coming out becoming lesser? Do you see lesser startups coming out? Do you see lesser new product coming out? Do you see less new innovation coming out? Maybe no, right? So, if
No.
we keep that as a trend, then maybe product management as a function is definitely growing.
Yes.
But it will definitely there will be an evolution here. So like I mentioned to you on the previous one, specialized PM roles, for example, PMs who are focused on growth. PMs, I think Uber or Airbnb, one of the first ones who actually had these growth teams coming up. Then maybe you have specialized people who are probably good at one particular part of it, that T-shaped skill that they talk about. We see a lot of technical product managers today taking care of one part. You see design focused guys coming out. So I think that is one level of evolution that we're already seeing. We might see another level of specialization I think they say, like, how in medicine there was this MBBS, then MD, then
Yes.
super specialization.
That's
So
true.
I think we're in that era where it's a continuous learning era. Things are changing so fast. So maybe 5 years later, 10 years later, product management might not be it. But I think a lot of things that you learn as a product manager can be applied to different things. So maybe people switching in and out to different roles. Um, there will be an evolution for sure. 4 years, 5 years back, something else was out. 2 years back, something else was out. We're all aware of that phase of data science, blockchain. Today it might be product management. Tomorrow it will be AI again. So I think it's a wave. It will come back in some form or the other. And as long as you and I believe that the next 5 years, all the 4 or 5 questions that I asked you, that is going up. I think product management as a function will definitely.
Okay. So, I believe we spoke earlier when I was part of the webinar that Rahul Vora of Superhuman had taken, and he spoke very confidently of game design. So, how much game design is right now influencing product management and product related roles at the moment? Do you see that happening a lot in the Silicon Valley or either in India's startup ecosystem? What do you see?
Few, Fewer companies doing it today, from my personal opinion. But given that Rahul and other folks like this are putting out great resources out there, are building companies on these principles,
Yes.
and people can see this. If they become successful, then that becomes a playbook, right? So if it'll start with people building similar products, then as that playbook grows, maybe it's already out there. He shared a couple of resources. I've also just started reading those books,
Okay.
trying to build the products that I'm building on those principles. So maybe a year later, if we're chatting, I'll be able to share more details on that. But I absolutely love the way they are building that product. I think that personalized onboarding premium sector is one sector uh, that it can start with. I'm not sure if there's a playbook for it to apply to smaller ticket. I think this is one question we raised in the Q&A as well. He definitely did share that there are stuff that is going on, and he's been doing it for a lot longer. So I think we're learning from experience out there. We're trying to apply it. As you see more and more companies doing it, you can already see a bunch of these companies applying these frameworks.
Yes.
But as when we see this, we see more success stories out there. We see bigger companies applying it. I think game design has always been there in some form or the other.
Yes.
Um, it's just like the path that they're taking, and they're putting it out. Popular products are actually putting it out there. Founders from those companies or evangelists from those companies are putting it out there, is when a lot more people like us get to hear about it, learn about it, and apply it to even the smaller products that we're building. So I think we're at that phase right now. um, Game design principles, if they do come into a lot more products, you and I will be happy to use them as well. So
Yes.
yeah, I think we are seeing this evolution for sure. It's just a matter of how long it will take, and what all products that it can be applied to right now versus in the future. But some principles you will notice are already being applied in some form or the other. So let's see how that becomes a lot more stronger in the coming years.
Okay. So I believe last month I had a conversation with a Bangalore entrepreneur. He's a founder of an edtech startup. They are recently funded, and he had said very specific thing to me that he told me in the next 10 years or so, um, game development would become so easy. So right now in the United States and other global AAA labeled games, they require large teams of 100 people, 150 people working on the design aspect, working on its development, using the engines. And right now, as we have seen processing power grow in our PCs and in our smartphones, we might be able to see games becoming the new startups.
Hmm.
And product manager role transition from being a manager of a product to becoming a storyteller of how the user is going to enjoy the game and play the game. Product manager would actually transition into that. So how much of reality do you see that happening in our in the current future?
I think that is an industry that is growing today. A lot
Yes.
more people, a lot of startups coming into that space. So while I don't have industry specific knowledge on that sector, as a user, I can say I think I'm definitely excited. I have a couple of friends in this industry. A very close friend of mine from college is currently building his own startup in the same space. So from my limited interaction there, I do see a lot of potential. Um, product managers as game designers is interesting, but for that I think a lot of us need to really think of it that way. I think from there needs to be the change in mindset where we are ready to get hands on, get our hands dirty, and really go about building these products. So it's impossible to say that 10 years later, say you've been working as a product manager at XYZ, and today the function of a product manager is very different. That's exactly what I told you.
Yes.
Game design principles to apply, it takes time. It's a function of your learning today, function of you discovering this, function of you applying this, and it has
Yes.
to also be there on the company roadmap. So like you mentioned, maybe 8-10 years from now, a lot more companies already doing it. So you see that transition because over the last couple of years you might have applied it to your own products. Those principles you've applied, and you're just transitioning into bringing that mindset into another company's function. So that is the possibility, but I think for that things have to change a lot more from the ground level. A lot more people thinking about it from there, applying it to products. Application is also important. I think principles out there, playbooks out there, but as long as that part is validated, I don't think the transition is going to be that simple. You'd see these are two different functions that grow, and maybe some intersection.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I think it is definitely something that is growing for sure on both sides. It would be interesting to see how that intersection comes in.
So would you say that um, playing games can be a groundwork to understanding products in the future
Playing games with that mindset कि ठीक
to
है,
learn?
yeah, not to learn, but while enjoying your mind should also not just blankly just playing the game, but understanding, okay, fine, hey, this is interesting, hey, can I apply this there? Have fun while playing it for sure, but
Yes.
take away those and apply it somewhere. I think that bit, if it's missing, jitna bhi game khel lo, like how much ever you play these games, uh, as long as the translation, that is super important. That translation and application, as long as that fits in, games are a great place to learn for sure. I think this is something that I've just been reading. I've just been getting into the product that a friend of mine in our building called Indistractable, which is
Okay.
essentially a set of productivity apps. We
Okay.
started with a minimalist launcher. So while it's going great right now, it's still in beta. But post this, in the last couple of weeks, we've also been reading these, trying to apply some of these frameworks, some of these principles, and how we can help the user upgrade. Get those principles from there into this. So it's a great learning place. Um, Fortnite is a great example. Learn something there.
That's true.
See how that can be translated and see how that can be applied. A lot of frameworks as well. So lots to learn there, but also do focus on translation and application.
So let me reiterate my question again. So let's
Yeah,
see, there is an aspiring product manager who is
yeah,
reading up, who is learning from Learn with me, Learn PM
yeah,
with me. He's
yeah,
reading on new books on product management. He's attending a
yeah,
lot of group meetups or attending a lot of
yeah,
webinars on product management.
yeah,
And
yeah.
alongside, he's using these principles in playing games so that he's
Okay.
understand from a user point of view, he's playing games, and
Yeah,
from a product manager or a game designer point of view, he's learning.
yeah,
So
yeah.
is that when these two skills can be like unionized in a larger subset? Do you think that is possible?
From the learning bit, yes. From the learning bit, a lot of great principles that can be learned from here. But let me ask you one thing: like, if you take any other skill, for example, designing, coding, any other skill, if I ask you, hey, I'll give you a couple of books. If you can go through that, I'll probably give you access to a bunch of these webinars. You attend that. I'll give you a couple of places where you can learn. So that learning bit. But if
Yes.
he or she doesn't go hands-on, do you think he'll be ready to apply this? So that's where I think what I meant by the translation and application is, yes, you can do all of this, which will help you on the education bit. Unionizing it will be great if we can actually get someone who, I think it will be a subset like you mentioned, where someone uses the principle of gamification for product development. We just did a small webinar, but you might see that blowing up into an entire series for people who are practicing other things. But how do I apply it to my product? That is something that can definitely come in the education bit.
Yes.
But what is super important is, again, like I think I'll still go back to what I said earlier, is how do I translate this and how do I apply this? Because without that, it's theoretical. how much do we it's just the difference between theoretical to practical. A lot of times what we read outside is to a certain niche, to a certain set of products that it can be applied to, and it's very different out there. So I think that is just the thing. Like take learn from everywhere. Well, I mean, learn from the best. Like curate that also. Too
Yes.
much content out there. Learn PM with me might be one. There are a great set of resource people writing out there. I'll share the link with you. Right? In the Indian ecosystem also, who have been in the ecosystem for 8-10 years, writing, putting out resources out there. So I'll share those with you.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Add those to the description here.
yeah.
Okay, so one interesting thing that you had recently mentioned about Fortnite. So there
Yeah.
was some insight about. So I was reading about Fortnite. So basically, Fortnite is a free of cost game. So anyone can go
Mm,
out there play this game, and it's built on Unreal Engine 4, and
mm,
that engine is free of cost for everyone to use. Basically,
mm,
when you have you have built a game on that engine and you have put it
mm,
out there. Um, Unreal Steam, they would charge you a royalty based off of how many users you are getting on that game. And
okay.
the most beautiful part of Unreal Engine 4 that has been released almost 6 or 7 months back only is that it is a very much of a no code solution. So it has provided you with the blueprints so that you don't
Mm,
have to code as much as you would have done initially with other um, gaming engines with such as Unity or Unreal Engine's previous iteration. And this is where I believe if you are going hands on. So let's say if I decided tomorrow that I'm going to become a backend developer, my goal would be to go out there, watch as many YouTube lectures or attend as many boot camps as I can. But the main principle that would actually allow me to become a backend engineer, backend developer is to all those principles that I'm doing, I need to actually put on hands-on experience right now.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So this is where my like I had brought up this question where games becoming so easy to build without requiring a lot of code. So would we see a similar level of transition that we had with apps in the apps ecosystem? There would be a similar transition happening in the games ecosystem altogether.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that insight. Actually, I wasn't aware of that. But yeah, that's great development there. And I think if that is the case, I think a lot more people who might already be, developing. And I believe that ecosystem is growing. So if that ease of building is there today,
Yeah.
and over the next few years gets even easier, with probably maintaining similar level of, gameplay, graphics, etc., then I think we'll see a lot more innovation coming out there where that constraint is removed. I think maybe for a lot of people who are really creative, who can do a lot more things, but the constraint is how do I build this? And that is where the entire no code revolution is coming.
Yes.
So if that is a game development, I think I'm excited as a user, as someone who plays games. I think I'm excited. I love to try out a lot more.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to hear. So right now, the only challenge with building games on Unreal Engine is that you need a very powerful processor. So
Right.
if you are able to like go out there, build a very powerful user GPU, powerful GPU, add a powerful processor, then with that PC build, you will be able to build games very soon in a time frame of 1 year to 2 years, which initially used to take 5 to 7 years. So the cost of game development by itself is going to come down, and we might see a lot of startups just focusing on becoming game studios for the future. Because if
Yes.
the goal is
Yes.
to just be an entertainment driven venture, so that is where we might be seeing a lot of growth. So you have said that you would like to play games. Any specific games that have allowed you to actually frame your thinking, or you just play for entertainment purposes?
Yeah, I think I'm with the amount of things going on right now. I'm not like a pro player or anything. Just once in a while where I get time, and it's all the traditional games, the one that you've heard of before. Been playing COD, Counter Strike, Fortnite sometimes, Dota back in college. So I think it's more of those traditional plays that we all have been involved in. Don't get so much time these days, but yeah, hoping I can change that. Sure.
Dota is actually said to be a very good game for those who are learning to implement strategy. It requires a lot of strategy.
Yeah,
Dota. So
yeah,
I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've not really played. So Dota. Like I'm not somebody who plays a lot of internet-based games, but with
Okay.
the cost of internet by itself becoming so cheap, I think
Yeah.
we'll be seeing a
Yeah.
lot of multiplayer-driven games out there into the
Yeah.
market.
Yeah, and I think that shift has happened in today's generation to mobile already. I
That's
think
true.
back when we were in college, where it was more PC driven. I think
Yes.
today games like PUBG etc. has probably given you a similar experience. I think a lot of these laptop computer first games are also coming out on mobile.
Yes.
So I think the next generation is already here, where they're smartphone first rather than discovering internet via the laptop or the computer. So maybe a lot of these, I think a lot of these games are also coming out and making a lot of money right on their smartphone. So
So,
it's definitely an experience.
yeah. So in these terms, like in our times, we did not have such commoditized technology right now. So we
Yeah.
used to have PCs which had 2 gigs of RAM or maybe 4 gigs of RAM. Right now, with the
Mm,
latest mobiles that are coming in, these mobile phones have 16 gigs of RAM or
yeah.
18 gigs
Yeah.
of RAM. So the processing power is
Yeah.
already there. Now, what we need is
Yeah.
just the back end of game development, which can be played on both mobiles and PC. So that is
Yep.
something that we might see in the future.
You're right. You're right. And I think I feel so old already, although I'm not listening to this conversation. But that just shows you the evolution, like how technology is just growing at such a rapid pace that that even skills, like if you compare this back to our first conversation, this is exactly where it is, right?
Yes.
This evolution is so quick, so your skills also need to upgrade in a similar fashion. So college, if you're learning C++ in college, how many startups are using that to develop things today, you know
No.
so just that bit, so in college, if there's I mean, I'm not sure of the recent syllabus. I think a lot of people have upgraded, a lot of colleges are upgrading this, they're bringing in a lot of these new age technologies. So that's a great part in the education bit.
Yes.
But all I'm trying to say is the onus is on you, to keep upgrading, keep upskilling. Continuous learning is definitely here to stay. So this is just revolving it back to our first conversation. Great way to touch both these spheres together.
Yeah, that's very true. And even with the national education policy reform that our government of India has implemented, where children would be
Yeah.
taught to code at the standard sixth standard,
Yep.
and this
Yep.
would
Yep.
like that is one development that actually scares me, because the coders that would be like training from sixth standard, they would truly be able to outcompete a developer who is at 40 years of age, because that would be the
Exactly.
transition, their level of creativity and the amount of technologies that they will be using, versus
Yep.
somebody
Yep.
where a 40-year-old is actually working in that industry. The advantage
Yep.
with 40-year-old would be that they have a very strong network of people around them for referral, um, and their all-round growth. But right now we are living in this information age where reskilling is the only choice that we have to actually grow further in our professional experiences and how we can actually get better at certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely, 100% agree with you. And um, just to back that up, I think it's not something. It's actually something I'm very excited about. I think this is something that I wish even existed, and I'm so happy that it's coming out right now. A lot more people learning hands-on skills early on in their career, which is more meaningful to the industry outcome.
Yes.
What I think is network, the definition of network changes. I think it is already changing, and you realize people do value skills now. So if from 6 to 12 or 6 to now, which I would call it 13, in those 6 years, if they're able to learn enough coding, they're able to put out this work. It doesn't matter what my network is, right? If I can showcase, if someone is able to showcase their skills, me as a founding or a founder or a hiring manager, uh, I'd be happy to take this. You know, I'd be happy to hire someone who has the skills rather than network. So I think they'd be able to showcase these skills that I think platforms will allow them to showcase.
Yes.
Wherein the network in its traditional definition wouldn't matter as much. Both will need to think about different ways to up the network.
Um,
But
okay.
I think I'm
Yes.
excited about bringing this new policy.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited about seeing this development in our startup ecosystem and new roles actually coming up. all this evolution of what our traditional jobs used to look like. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited about hearing all these things. And we have been speaking for almost an hour right now. That
Yeah.
was really wonderful conversation I had with you, and I
Same
hope
here.
all the viewers who would be actually listening to this conversation got extracted something of value for themselves. Now, are there any ending notes that you would like to share on where people can find you, learn? And I will be sharing these links for the productfolks.com. I believe your
Yeah.
website is recently launched only, I think, last month itself, and
Right.
other folks.
Right.
So, is there any other resource that you would like to share with the audience that would be really helpful?
Sure thing. I think the reason I didn't take any names on this particular episode
Yep.
was I was sure that I'll miss out a couple of more, and I think I made that mistake in the previous ones. That's why it's a conscious effort, but I'd love to give them all a shout out. So what I'll do is, if you could just include that in the description, bunch of
Yes, I'll
people
do
who
that.
are putting out great, yeah, bunch of people who are putting out great resources out there, and I'll send you links to that, in the product space and the other spaces that I'm interested in, where I also get to learn. And those are links that I share with a lot more people who reach out to me. That's one. Closing on the things, I think the product folks is as a community. So if anyone's involved in getting, helping out and growing with as a community, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, DM us there, or just write to me on email. Happy to connect you guys. Do let me know on learnpm.with.me what else you'd like to see. So we're working on a version 2. What do you think might be more useful for people who are trying to break in what is missing, so we could add that in. Club will be launching the next cohort soon. I think it's a little delayed. I think we're getting a lot more inbound right now, but we'll let you know as soon as the next cohort is live. So I'll give you a
I
date
would love
there.
to participate in
Uh,
that. I would love to participate in the next cohort. If it's in the
yep,
next, I would love to join this.
sure thing, sure thing. So I'll let you know. It's definitely a little delayed, and that is on our part. So sorry for that, but we'll let you know as soon as the next one is live. Um, Indistractable is something that is a passion project and is something that I'm excited about, given that um, a lot of people are right now facing distraction. So how do we help them fight digital distraction? That is the major aim.
Yes.
So I'll share a link with you. Our beta is live, so do try that out and share any feedback you might have. Um, I'll send you that link as well. Apart from that, I think one thing we launched in the last 3 months, I think as India was going into lockdown in the COVID times, it's called grabchai.online, which is
Okay.
essentially a portal to help meet interesting people off the internet. So do check that out, grabchai.online, and would love to hear your feedback on that as well. So yeah, that's probably anything else that I could help with. You can reach out to me on Twitter anytime. My DMs are open, and context would definitely help me help you. So that's just something that I'd like to add.
All right. It was a wonderful conversation speaking with you, Suhas. I had really enjoyed speaking with you. Got so many interesting insights from you here. And
Same here. Same here.
same here. So, if there are any other milestones with the passion projects that you're working on, I would love to have you on for another conversation somewhere down the line, and that would be great.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much,
Yeah.
and thanks so much for this opportunity. I think I love chatting with you as well. Got to
Thank
learn a couple of interesting things, and all the best for this series that you started.
you.
Would love to see how this grows as well.
Same here. So I'm going to actually start reaching out to more people as to
Sure
if
thing.
they want to share some interesting things that the audience would like to hear. All right. So I'll
Sure
just
thing.
stop
Sure thing.
on the recording here.